Hey everyone, Dominic the Primetime Treasure Hunter here. I am super excited because I just sold the 89 Avengers comic books from the 1970s that are inside of this box. I paid 10 cents a piece for them, so $8.90. Total sale, $500. So that is really amazing. It's a great return on investment, and it adds on to a prior comic book that I sold that came right out of this same box. I did a video on it. Giant Size X-Men #1 sold for $1,250. This is what I'm talking about when I say there's big money in comic books. So it's real important to pay attention to the comic book videos I have in the playlist section and in my prior what sold videos, because in addition to these and the Giant Size X-Men, if you look back on those videos, there were other Avengers books that also came out of this box that I would sell here and there for like 50 bucks, 70 bucks, 80 bucks. The total for those other 10 books easily went over $250. So conservatively, I'm telling you that for a $10 investment in this box of comic books, I wound up easily selling it gross for over $2,000. So how did I get these? I'll take you through the story right here as I show you some of these covers. Some of you have heard this before, but basically I put an ad out on Craigslist saying that I was looking for comic books and other related collectibles, and that I would also do private estate clearouts. And so a guy contacted me and he told me that he worked for the company Got Junk, and that he had a whole bunch of stuff that he had collected and just taken away from estates that he had cleared out, and he just kept it in a big trailer. So it took a while to get together with the guy, but finally, and this is an important issue, I'll put this aside and tell you why in a second. It took a while to meet and get together, and we did. And the first date, I did really well. I really made some amazing scores on some Magic the Gathering cards, and I filled up the entire trunk, entire back seat area of the Primetime Treasure Mobile. Went back a second day for more stuff because I asked him, if he had any comic books. He said, yeah, I do. I have some, but they're at home. I just, got them from some estate, and I'll just bring them by. So he brings them by, and it was kind of like an add-on, just like at the end. He's like, oh yeah, here's those comic books I was talking about, and he shows me this box. And so again, it was at the end, it was kind of rushed. I kind of looked through it, I skimmed through it, and I said, oh yeah, okay, there's some old Avengers, there were some Captain Americas in there too. I said, great. And so he just threw it in for 10 bucks. So I'm like, awesome. So this box literally sits next to me for about a year, right over here. I didn't even realize that the Giant Size X-Men #1 was in there until one day I found it, and I said, oh my God, I can't believe it's been sitting there. So sold that one for $1,250, and then I put these up. Now I put these up after I had taken out most of the key issues. If you're not familiar with comic books, there are things called key issues. These are issues where something really important took place, such as the first appearance of a certain character, the death of a certain character, or something along those lines. Now, a question actually came in recently into my Facebook group for people who buy large collections of comic books, and that they're not sure how to identify key issues. Well, there is a way that you can do it, and I have the link in the description section. It's not going to cost you anything. It's a free account. I'm not affiliated with them or anything, but I always recommend them. It's comics with an S, priceguide.com. You log in, create a free account, type in any comic book, and then go to the details section. And if it's a key issue, and key issues are the ones that are going to be the most valuable, it's going to have a symbol or a picture of a little key next to it. And that's how you will know. It's one way you could easily figure it out. Now, I sold off all of the keys and left kind of like more kind of just regular non-key books in here that individually would not really be worth much. I mean, no one's really going to pay a lot, for example, for this particular issue. I mean, you can look it up and see. But when you have them in bulk, it's like I've talked about with other comic books, like the Lone Ranger comic books or Roy Rogers comic books, the same kind of thing. That adds value when they're older like this. So what I did is I strategically held on to one book that was worth more than the other ones. If you look this up in comicspriceguide.com, it's going to show that little key symbol. So that could be a good example if you want to test it out. And so I put them up, and you know, it's one of these things where it is something that requires the right buyer to come by. Plenty of people lowballed me on these, and I held firm on these for a while because what I was waiting for is somebody who really needed these to complete his collection. And sure enough, the guy messaged me this morning, and he said, you know, he would really love them for his collection. I had them up for $600, but the $600 price was like, you know, pie in the sky. Maybe someone would come in and just do a buy it now on them. But for $500, considering I have nothing invested into these anymore, I couldn't pass it up, especially given all the prior low balls that had come in on it. The guy paid me in like 2 seconds for it. So now what we've got to do is we've got to box these up and send them out. Now, we don't want to send them out in this. This is a traditional short box. I've mentioned the company BCW before for the bags and the boards, but this is not going to work out. So because I don't like shipping in anything that has a detachable lid like this. Plus, the other problem with it, if you ship things out in a comic box, is that it's too readily identifiable as a comic box, and that makes it more prone as a theft risk. So you don't want to do that. So what we're going to do is we're going to take these out and we're going to rebox them. And I haven't shown this in a while in terms of how I do that. So it's one of my earliest videos, and one of the things with YouTube is that, you know, once your video becomes old, unless it was something that went viral, no one ever sees it again. So I'm going to show you the technique again. As you can see, there's a bunch more that are in here. So let me show you the system, and this is something I highly recommend if you're sending out large amounts of media, particularly comics, magazines, other types of paper products if you want to keep them secure. So let's get to that step next. Okay, now the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to break these into 2 stacks. And so for 89 comic books, that's 44 on one side, 45 on the other side if you're just doing it purely based on math. However, sometimes with older comic books, including these from the 1970s, some of the issues have different page thicknesses, and so as a result of that, they could wind up being uneven. I like to make them both even. It's just easier for me to work with it that way. And so you might have to pull from one and put on the other side, which is what I did here. Now, I didn't mention this, but I said they're all from the 1970s, but in case you were wondering, these issues span from number 80 all the way to issue 177. And that's another little bonus tip I want to give you is the word span. If you don't have every single issue from point A to point B, then you can't call it a run. A run is when it goes consecutive, straight through. But in this instance, what you could say is that they span it. So that means that there's something missing in between, but it's good for putting in a title because it gives people a sense of where that range is for the issues. And then they could go into the description section and they could find out more specifics. And for this, if you look at my title for it, you know, whatever the most important issue was, like the Black Panther one, number 87, I made sure that that one got into the title because that's something people are going to search for more. So make sure you're taking advantage of your keywords. Now, sometimes with comic books, when you put them in stacks like this, they're going to slump over to one side, and you don't want to tape them up that way. These are actually staying pretty straight. But if that does happen, what you want to do is just take a little stack, and turn it over like this, and then take another stack like this, and you keep it the regular way like it is here, and then you take another stack from underneath it, and you put it right like this. And so you just keep nesting them like that, and that helps to even them out. It's a great little trick. I love using that. Another little tip, and this goes for any kind of paper products that you're sending out, especially ones with collectible covers, and it includes posters too, not ones that you roll, but ones that you would send flat. You want to make sure that the most collectible part is not facing outwards. So you want to make sure that's down. So this is going to be down, this is going to be down, and obviously our bottom part is going to be down, because in a case where there is any kind of external pressure coming from, you know, the outside down onto the items, if there is going to be any damage, which we're going to do everything to minimize, but if anything like that happened, you want this to take the brunt of it, not the front face of the collectible item. So I'm going to take some tape, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to tape around this. I'm going to tape from here to here, here to here, here to here and here to here. Now, don't worry about that. That's not going to damage the book. You just have to make sure that you're using tape that easily peels off. I do this all the time. I have never had a single complaint. It comes off very easily, 2 seconds. I use a company called Tape King, and I have their link down below in the description section if you're interested in their tape. I have 3-inch and a 2-inch. So I'm going to tape these up, and then I'll show you what we do from there. Okay, so as you can see, I've got these taped up nice and snug. So we've got it going right around the center here, and it goes well onto the book. So it's nice and tight. Same thing here, and same thing here. So now they're nice and snug, and they're really easy to work with for the next step. So this one is the same way as well. Remember, it's not going to cause any problem when someone goes to remove the tape. Comes off very easily. So do we just take these and then just throw them in a box and send them on their way? Absolutely not. What we want to do is we want to put these in its own box, encapsulate it, and then we're going to take that and put it in another box. Now, you may not have boxes that are exactly this size sitting around. If you do, you could use those, but I'm going to assume for sake of example here that you don't have those. So what we're going to do is we're going to make our own customized box. So what we're going to do is we're just going to take the comic books and we're going to lay them on top of a strong, sturdy piece of cardboard like this, and then we're just going to cut around it. So we're going to have a base, and then we're just going to use that as a template to cut a top. And so we're going to do that for both of these pieces, and then I'll show you the next step. Okay, so as you can see here, the next step is done. I've got the cardboard on this side, the cardboard on that side, and you can see here I've got 4 pieces of tape wrapped around just like I have it wrapped internally. That makes it easier to work with for the next step. The next step is the one that's really going to protect this. And it's something that a lot of people will skip. Some people will do these steps that I just described, but then leave out the next one. And what happens is that you could see here how they're starting to stick out a little bit, like they're a little bit uneven. And of course, I'll reorganize and press it in. But if you just sent it out like that, just by natural movement and just by pressure and forces being exerted on it, they are going to move around. And what happens is it runs the risk that these are going to poke outside of the cardboard here, and that they're going to get damaged, bent, that sort of thing. So what you need is a way to encapsulate this. So that's why I always keep stray pieces of cardboard around. Now, this is from what I was just using, that big piece to cut out, but I always have just other pieces from other projects that I cut out. So what you're just gonna do, it's very simple, is that you're just gonna lay this right on top, or another piece that would fit, and just match it up, okay? Just match up the corners and just cut like this. Just cut right across. Okay, so now you have this piece to work with. And what you're gonna do is line it up. You just want to make it even, because you can see here it's going over that edge a little bit, so we want to just trim that part off, just like something you might see in like a woodworking show, like This Old House, is the same kind of thing. You're just doing it with cardboard. So and you don't have to be like perfect with it, but just an approximation will be fine. So now you can see we've got that there. So now it's going to be impossible for anything to peek through this, because what we're going to do is take one piece of tape right here, right over the center, boom, like that. One piece like this. Instead of Emerald, who says bam, I say boom. We're going to go like this. And there we go. Now, this is going to prevent any kind of damage happening to this. And I'm just going to do the same thing for these other sides and show you the final product for both of these. I don't just use this for comic books. I use this kind of boxing technique for all sorts of items that I just might not have the right size box sitting around for, or just a quick, easy way for me to encapsulate something to prevent damage. So let me finish this and I'll show you what it looks like. Okay, so as you can see, we have cardboard protecting every single side, so there is no way that the contents inside of this are going to get damaged. Of course, there is tape around it as well to make sure that all the end points are secure. So this is going to protect those inner contents. There is no way what is inside of here is going to get damaged. This thing is like a rock. So what we're going to do now is, because I have the other one taped up exactly the same way, is I'm just going to take these two pieces like this, and I'm just going to tape them together. So I've got it that way on that side. So now I'm just going to turn this around, and we're going to put another piece of tape going across so we keep this all nice and tight. So just one piece of tape, and we're all set. Now everything here is nice and tight. This is not going to separate. It is going to stay together. That's important for when we put it inside the box. What box? This box right here. So this just fits right here in the middle. And I'll show it to you here. We've got a little bit of a gap on either side, which is actually good because it allows me to put some air cushioning here right on the ends to prevent damage. So as you can see here, what I did is I surrounded it with large bubble wrap. Remember, the bubbles always face inwards to the item, and that's going to protect it really well. It really is advantageous to use these bubbles in this type of situation when you have a heavy object inside, because if you're going to go with another option like an air pillow or an air cushion, the problem is that the weight of the item can pop these things during transport. The farther it's going to go, the increased risk that you're going to have of that, and then you're going to lose some of your protection here, if not the vast majority of it. With the large bubbles, you may have a few bubbles that pop here and there during transport, but most of them will still remain intact. The other thing that's good about these is they're easy to manipulate and move. You might just need to slide it down into a narrow slot like that, which I did here, or you might want to just fold it over on itself to increase the surface area, which I also did here as well to just add protection to it. Now, all I have left here is just this exposed top. I don't like to keep anything exposed, even though it most likely would just be fine. So I'm just going to take some sheets of small bubble wrap right here. You could take one slice, you could take two slices, and I'm just going to lay it right on top here. You don't really have to tape it down because it's going to stay intact just by turning the flaps inwards right here. So we're just going to turn those in like that. I'm going to take this one, put it like that, and this one here, and they would compress inwards to one another, and we could put a piece of tape running across. However, once in a while, you're going to have a situation where you may have like a little bit of a gap there. You see that? You might have a little gap that you want to fix. So in that situation, what I suggest doing is just taking a strip of cardboard and just putting it right across the gap here, and then just taping it down inside. So then you don't have to worry about that anymore. If you have a little piece of cardboard that kind of frays across the top, exposing some of the corrugation, same thing. You could just cut out a little strip, just lay it right over and tape it down. It'll be just fine. And so that's the last step here, is just to tape up these seams. All right, well, as you can see here, it is all taped up. It's good to go. And as you could hear or not hear, there's no rattling inside. There's no noises in there. It's not moving around, shaking around, banging up against the side. It is all good to go. So if you were to hear any shaking or rattling, what you want to do is open it back up, then put additional void fill in there, and then seal it back up, obviously. But the thing is, to prevent even that from happening, before you even put all this tape around it, you could just take it and just, press it tight with your hands and shake it, and then you'll be able to tell before you even tape it up if you did it right. If you don't hear any noises, you are good to go. Speaking of good to go, let's get this off to the customer already. So I know people are going to ask me what service did I use to ship it and how much did it cost to ship. I used Priority Mail and I used Pirate Ship to ship it out, and that includes $500 worth of insurance. So the total cost through Pirate Ship was $23.50. That's $4 less than what it would have cost if I went through eBay's labels to ship it out through USPS. So highly recommend Pirate Ship once again. And I have used their insurance before, by the way, and they came through no problem. Just make sure that you take a photograph of your item, including of the shipping label, before it actually gets sent out, so you have that as a record. They're going to ask for that if you make an insurance claim. Subscriber of the day goes to Harry Graham, a longtime follower of the channel, and he loves comic books. So this one's special just for you, Harry. Don't forget, everyone, like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you all at the next one. Take care. Hey, Daisy, is that your phone? Who are you calling? You calling Gizmo? You calling Gizmo up? Listen. Oh, you got mad at me for saying that? Oh, I said his name. Oh, I said his name. Listen, you got to work on this.